Senator, your response to the White House victory lap on infrastructure and the Republicans that helped push it over the line?
Well, I think it's a bad bill. I think it is really unfortunate that we saw House Republicans assist the White House. They were getting their clocks cleaned. It's another $1.2 trillion in spending. It's on top of the trillions in spending we've already seen. As you noted, that is already driving inflation across the economy. The price of food is going up. The price of milk is going up. The price of gasoline is going up. The price of rent and homes and lumbers, everything is going up. And the Biden administration is causing it. Unfortunately, we saw a handful of House Republicans decide to rescue Nancy Pelosi from the bill crashing on its own. I think that did two things that were really problematic. Number one, it did what the Biden White House wanted to do, which is change the subject from the shellacking they took in Virginia. Virginia was a terrific victory. I was there on election night with Glenn Youngkin. It was a tremendous example of the parents of Virginia saying hell no to this radical left-wing approach that said that parents have no role in their kids' education. But the House Republicans, or a handful of them, decided to change the subject from that. And I think it also increased momentum for the really terrible bill, which is the next one, the Bernie Sanders socialist budget. I pray to God the Bernie Sanders socialist budget doesn't pass, but these House Republicans sadly made it more likely.
Well, as I mentioned, your colleagues, I don't want to put you in a tough spot here, Senator, but your colleagues in the Senate greased the way for this entire thing to happen. And I know you were a stalwart, along with so many of your colleagues, in standing against this. But Mitch McConnell is he's a super smart, tactician, probably one of the smartest tacticians in the Senate we've ever had. What's going on there? Did I get anything wrong in my description of the piece of the pie attitude that a lot of Republicans seem to have about this?
Look, it was crazy. In the Senate, for about 2 months, we had massive arguments over this bill. I mean, screaming arguments at lunch. We have lunch together every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday together, all the Senate Republicans. And there were about a third of the Senate Republicans who ended up voting for this. And they would stand up and they would pitch all the terrific things that are in there. They'd pitch roads and bridges. And listen, Laura, roads and bridges are popular. $110 billion of this bill are roads and bridges. I suggested, fine, if you like roads and bridges, I like roads and bridges. Let's pass $110 billion in roads and bridges and throw away the other trillion that is in this bill. They didn't want to do that. It's like the old con man who sells you the Brooklyn Bridge over and over and over again. It's always about the bridge. And I stood up in these lunches repeatedly and I said, why are you making it easier for Bernie Sanders to bankrupt this country and jam his socialist agenda down the throats of the American people? And the Republicans who voted for this, they said, no. When this passes, it will be harder for Bernie to do that. And I remember I responded to them, Laura. I said, well, look, if you got this as a deal, we'll do this instead of the Bernie Sanders budget. I could understand that reasoning. That actually, there would be some force to that. But you got nothing. They gave up nothing. They said, we'll pass this, and then we'll pass everything else on top of it. What the heck is that deal getting you?
They're the absolute worst negotiators I've ever... I can't imagine you could get a worse negotiation out of it. They lost all their leverage, and now they're going into the spenderama, of the $4 trillion. Now, Senator, I have to move to this because this, the Fifth Circuit, you and I know well, blocked Biden's vaccine mandate. But the White House is encouraging businesses to go ahead and implement it. Watch.
This is about keeping people in a workplace safe. We're trying to get past this pandemic, and we know the way to do that is to get people vaccinated. So people should not wait. They should continue to go move forward and make sure that they're getting their workplace vaccinated.
So, Senator, are they now just strongly encouraging versus mandating to try to get around the court's injunction?
Listen, this is unfortunately a completely lawless administration. The Fifth Circuit quite rightly stayed Biden's illegal vaccine mandate. They issued an injunction against enforcing it. And the White House is saying, ignore the court injunction. Look, the White House lawyers know that the COVID mandate, especially to private employers, is illegal and it's going to be struck down. What they're counting on is a whole bunch of people will comply anyway while the litigation is pending. And by the way, this is not the first time they've done this. On the border, the Biden administration refuses to enforce the border. We have chaos on our southern border. A federal court in Texas ordered the Biden administration to remain in and to implement the Remain in Mexico agreement. Again, the Biden administration is just defying that court order. They're slow walking it. And this is an administration that is utterly lawless. And unfortunately, the American people are paying the price.
Well, Senator, finally, Houston is mourning the tragic and looks like completely avoidable deaths from that Travis Scott concert. 8 people, including 2 teens, died. Hundreds were injured. Hordes of people rushed the stage. I'm hearing some troubling reports. First sources in the Houston PD are telling me all sorts of things about why this thing should have been pulled back, should never have been granted a permit. How do we make sure this never happens again?
Well, Laura, you're right. It's horrific what happened at that concert. You know, I grew up in Houston. I grew up going to concerts at Astroworld. So when I was a teenager, I was in crowds at concerts there. Thankfully, we did not have the sort of chaos and tragedy that unfolded the other night in Houston. And the city is mourning that tragedy. And there needs to be a very serious, a very credible, a very objective investigation into what went wrong. All of the steps that could have been taken to prevent this tragedy as it was unfolding. And I've been reading the stories of concert goers who were there, who were trapped, who were paralyzed, who couldn't breathe, and the crowd kept pressing and pressing and pressing. And apparently they didn't have the crowd control mechanisms in place. They didn't have the ability to stop the concert. I got to say, the video of the young woman who climbs up to the camera tower and is begging them, people are dying down there, stop the concert. Yep. It was indefensible that they didn't stop it. They didn't intervene and rescue lives. And we need to investigate it and make sure it never happens again.